Am I right to be angry? Join me as we ask ourselves the question that God asked Jonah. Am I right to be angry? Hi, I'm Betty. Thank you for joining me today for the second in our three-part series on the book of Jonah. You may be like me, having had several classes on the book of Jonah as I was growing up. It was always one of my favorite ones, but now I think we need to take an adult-sized view of the book of Jonah and see how it may help us today. Last week we discussed the lead up to our lesson today, where Jonah was told by God to go to Nineveh, a long ways away, and to tell them that he was going to destroy them in 40 days. Jonah didn't want to do it, so he went exactly opposite to God's command and had the shipwreck. He was thrown in the sea and was swallowed by the fish. He realized and acknowledged God as his creator and his God. God had the fish throw him up on the beach and told him to go to Nineveh. Nineveh did, told them they were going to be destroyed, and the king spoke to all the people and said, everyone do these things and we will serve God. So the whole city turned to God. A wonderful event. Blessings to all of them. They were saved and they had a chance to turn their lives around. What a great thing. Any preacher, any teacher of the gospel would love to have a whole city take to heart their proclamation and turn to God. Well, let's take a look at Jonah. In chapter 4, it starts off, "But Jonah was greatly displeased and became angry. He prayed to the Lord. 'O Lord, is this not what I said when I was still home? That is why I was so quick to flee to Tarshish. I knew that you are a gracious and compassionate God.'" That's a good thing. "I knew that you are slow to anger and abounding in love." Okay, where's the bad part? "A God who relents in sending calamity. Now, O Lord, take away my life, for it is better for me to die than to live." Okay, I'm confused here. Why was he so angry that God had saved those people? He was angry because he wanted them punished. Have we ever had that problem where we want someone else to be punished? We don't want God to save them. Maybe not so often, or not to the extent of wanting a whole city to be destroyed. But we can get angry and we can hold grudges against people. And we can wish for bad things on people. I'm not immune to this. You know, I've been upset about some things sometime too. He was so angry, he was not trying to take it into his own hands and hurt some of them or anything like that. He's angry enough that he wants to die. He's telling God, the life you give me, the breath you give me, is not worth it. It's better for me to just die and be off of this earth. He's got a problem with his anger, doesn't he? In verse 4, but the Lord replied, have you any right to be angry? We're going to come back and visit these two, this interchange again later in this chapter. So Jonah went out to the east of the city. He made himself some kind of a shelter, sat in its shade, and waited to see what would happen to the city. It's almost like he was hoping that it would turn back to its wicked ways, and then God could punish them. Then the Lord provided a vine to crawl over that, and it gave Jonah even more shade. It was kind of a leafy vine and gave him more shade, that he was thankful for it. But the next day, God provided a worm that ate the vine. Then he caused the east wind to come and the sun blazing on Jonah's head, so much that he grew faint. And then in verse 8, he said, it would be better for me to die than to live. Again, life is not worthwhile. We all know people who have terminal illnesses that are painful, or there's just no hope, and they want to die quickly. We understand that. What is it about Jonah that is so bad that he wants to die, that he doesn't want to keep living to serve God? We know that Paul, the Apostle Paul, had that back and forth of, for me to live is good. I can preach the gospel. For me to die, I'll be in heaven. I don't know which I want the most, but I'm going to leave it up to God. That's not what Jonah is doing, and he's not mad enough to take care of ending his life himself. But once again in verse 9, God said to Jonah, do you have a right to be angry about the vine? Jonah just flat out tells him, I do. I am angry enough to die. That's how huge his anger was. But the Lord told him, you've been concerned about the vine, though you did not tend it, you did not grow it. It sprang up overnight, and it died overnight. But Nineveh has more than 120,000 people who cannot tell their right hand from their left, and many cattle as well. Should I not be concerned about that great city? There isn't any place in these events for Jonah's anger. He doesn't have a right to be angry. He could be spending a lot of time being joyful. I don't know that I've ever had, well, I know I haven't ever had the anger enough that I wanted to die. No, I haven't had that. I've had other issues at times where I was pretty strong, but it wasn't in anger. It was over events that happened that was so sad. But we can ask ourselves in those times, do I have the right to be angry? Sometimes we get so wrapped up in whatever is on the news, whether it's true or not, we don't always know. Whatever we see on the internet, whatever the few of us that still read the newspapers, whatever's in that, and we get angry about those things. We can let our anger get out of control. I have a few descriptions here that might help us, and I've got my little list so that I cover what I want to. There's outward anger, that's destructive, where you're angry and causing problems. There's passive aggressive anger, where you're not addressing your anger and the source of it, but you're going around the side and causing some issues. Assertive anger, that stands up and says in a calm manner, I'm angry about this. This isn't right. You're being disrespectful, or I never had a chance to tell you why I did that. Resentful. Self-inflicted, when you're telling yourself, I'm a terrible person, I'm so stupid. A lot of people with low self-images know what this is like, and there's anger with it sometimes. Chronic anger. Sometimes people live angry. They're just angry all the time. I think some of it is because of sources of news or the people that we hang around with. If they are angry and combative all the time, then we can just take that on. And that's not helpful, productive either. Sometimes we're very angry when we're overwhelmed. That's a tough one, but it is something that we can try to deal with. So anger in and of itself is neither good nor bad. It's why you're angry. Jonah's sin was that he was angry at God for doing something that was good. The plan from the very beginning, as I've said before, was forgiveness. God knew that we were going to choose to be wrong sometimes. He knew that we weren't going to live the perfect life. He accepted that in creating us with choice, because He wants a people who choose to love Him, who choose to serve Him. So He knows that we may have trouble dealing with our anger. There's several different ways in the Bible that help us to see good ways to handle it and destructive ways. I don't have the scriptures down. I'll get these and give them next week. There's a righteous anger. When Jesus cleared the temple, those merchants, it wasn't that they were selling things for people to buy, birds for the poor people to buy, to offer as sacrifices, those kinds of things. That's not what the problem was. The problem was they were cheating them. That's why they were thieves. If it'd been a fair price, there was no thievery involved. They were not giving a fair price. Jesus cleansed the temple. He did something about an issue that was there, a scene in which there was something wrong going on. That was righteous anger. There's sinful, destructive anger. Cain and Abel. Cain was so angry that his sacrifice was not received, but Abel's was. He was so angry that he killed Abel. Our sin can be that strong. Our anger can lead us to do that. Slow to anger. Jonah said himself, "You are slow to anger." Well, he certainly proved it with Jonah, because I don't know how many days this had gone on. Jonah directly defied him, went the other way, and then when he did obey him, he gets mad because of God wanting to save this whole city. There's bitterness and resentment. Esau, when Jacob got the blessing, he was upset about that. And we have another case with Nehemiah when he, in his wisdom, controlled his anger when he talked to the elders of the group. So there's anger that takes place throughout the Bible, and we have to look at it. We get to look at it, and we get to see. As here with Jonah, it's been going over in my mind quite often is, am I right to be angry about this? It can help us get rid of some of that anger. Some of the things that we can do in addition. I'm not a counselor. I don't try to be a counselor. I don't put myself out as a counselor, although I did get a degree in social work. But there's lots of things, taking a break, pausing, resting, taking a time out, setting boundaries. That's a good one, and that's one that I had to learn myself. Other things that we can do, certainly prayer is very important. Humbling ourselves before God, admitting our problems that we're having with our anger, that we acknowledge that we have those problems, and we seek His help, and that He brings us the help that we need. He brings the teacher, or He brings the scripture. He helps us learn what to do with this. Another thing with our anger is sometimes we need to forgive someone else. I had a friend that I talked to many times and said, forgiveness is more for you than it is for this person you need to forgive. You're carrying around this festering sore that rules your life because it dictates your actions or lack of action. Thankfully, he has made progress in that way, and it looks like that is becoming a good situation. I had a friend that was sent to anger management classes, and he had to pay for them because he had made threatening moves in a relationship. He said that 1 year of classes did him so much good in learning how to handle his anger. There are all of these things that can help us deal with our anger. God is there to be with us. He gave us the power to be angry. Is it right to get angry over human trafficking? I think so. Is it right to get angry over drug dealing, murder, robbery? There's a point. Do I need to be angry over someone in New York robbing a bank? Maybe not. One of the greatest things that I did to help my life have less pain, less anger, was to quit watching the news. Whenever they had the scenes of war that are designed to get an emotional reaction from you, I just turned it off. I don't watch that. We can look at ourselves, analyze ourselves. We know when we're angry, and it's not a comfortable feeling. We're out of control when we are exercising our anger, either when we shouldn't be at all, or to a much more violent or volumistic kind of reaction. God is there. God is the God of peace. God wants you to have a great life. He wants you to learn how to handle these things in your life. There are many times where you just don't know how you can ever forgive this person. Give it to God. Let God help you dissolve that in your life so that you can have the joy. We look at in the other series on Philippians, where Paul counted it all joy when he was in prison because he got to teach all the whole prison guard, the palace guard. He got to teach them the gospel. There's a lot of things that he went through, but he wasn't angry about it. He was thankful that he had opportunities because of the good and the bad decisions that he made. I hope that you will find the peace in letting things go, giving it to God. That's not just a saying that people, a catchy saying that people say, well, you just got to give it to God. Well, that's true. That's really true. it's not something that's overly stated. He's there to help us see when we are angry at things that we shouldn't be angry, or when we have too much anger, or when we handle appropriate anger inappropriately. Next week, we will be talking about the anger that we experience from other people. Here we're talking about our anger. Let's look at ourselves first. Then we're going to talk about anger that we're on the receiving end. What can we do in those situations? What are some tools? What are some prayers? How can we handle that? To where should we go? I hope you'll join us for that. If you have a comment on how you've handled anger in your life, how you've improved your ability to handle anger appropriately, leave those in the comment section below. Let us join you on your journey as we all try to live closer and become more like God. Thank you again for joining me today. Next week we'll wrap up our study in Jonah. I think it will be a very helpful one. Maybe we've got it pretty well. Maybe we've got our anger in a pretty good state, but we're each just one person. I'm just myself. And so if I've worked on my anger, I've got all these other people around me that haven't. And we've all experienced that. Some of us to the point of being physically and verbally, emotionally abused. We're going to cover a few things there. Again, not like I'm a counselor, but looking at this from a spiritual viewpoint. What are some things that we can do? Let's all remember, do you have the right to be angry? So now we're going to say it to ourselves. We're going to ask ourselves the question God asked Jonah. Do I have the right to be angry? I thank you again for joining me. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, and ring that bell. Have a blessed week, and I'll see you again next week.